Hello, you're back with Dave and Tim at a single malt review. For 2 episodes running, we are looking at an abundant and affordable blended Irish whiskey.
Yes, we are. We looked at Jameson's recently, the Leviathan offering there from coming out of Middleton. And this one, the more we looked up on this one, which is a Tullamore DEW, for those keeping up, the more interesting it became. I just thought this was another one they knocked out of Middleton Distillery. Thank you, Mingus. And up until very recently, it was. And we've uniquely got an actually legible bottling date on this one, so we'll get into it as we go. But this one is a whiskey. It's a whiskey with a mystery. So we shall see.
Yeah, the DEW in Tullamore DEW is actually an acronym, DEW, for Daniel E. Williams, the first general manager of the still, I believe.
And consequent owner of the distillery as well. Way back when it was its own thing.
Yeah.
Now, the reason this is a whiskey mystery for us is that it was bought by Grants, the Grants, the Grants and the Glenfiddich people. Those guys, one of the biggest independent Scotch sort of spirits owners out there, potentially the biggest independent one, I think. But they bought that in 2010 and went put their money where their brand was and went and just built a new Tullamore distillery in Tullamore, bringing distilling back to that part of Ireland for, I think it had been gone for 60 years since they'd made any whiskey there. And from 2014 they were producing spirit out of that distillery. So there's this being a 2017 bottling. This could be, if it is, it'll be one of the very first, because it will only be just old enough. Very first Tullamore distilled Tullamores. I think that's maybe diminishingly likely. This probably is one of the very last Middleton offerings, or it could be a mix of both. They could have been trading barrels between.
Yeah.
Which they'd be perfectly able to do. Say the grain from the Tullamore distillery might have been ready, but the malt wasn't. That's very likely. So this could be a bit of a hybrid, and it could be something that's going to be there's maybe 2 years where we'll get this interesting Frankenstein Tullamore DEW, and then it'll change a wee bit once it moves all the way over to the Tullamore spirit. We just do not know, but it's an interesting exercise to think about. So we might have to catch up on this one when we can find a 2020 or 2021 bottling, and we can be sure that came from the new distillery and see if there's any differences there.
What we do know is a mixture of pot and column distilled grain and malt spirit in here, and it's been matured in various, I assume, first fill, possibly refill, ex-sherry butts and bourbon casks.
Yeah, so on the face of it, that's a pretty similar vital statistics there to Jameson, which we just tasted. But I think you'll have to agree that's a very different nose.
40% ABV.
Yeah,
that is you're
very different.
It is wildly different.
And not as good. Jameson's had a really beguiling kind of a nose with lots of interesting,
lots of fruit and spice, which
on.
is absent here.
This one is very much, here you go, it's grain whiskey kind of a nose. It's not particularly rough, but there's very little in terms of subtlety or complexity or intrigue going on in this nose. I'm having trouble picking up a great deal at all beyond the absolutely standard spirit and oak characteristics. There's a wee bit of honey, maybe? It's not giving a hell of a lot away.
It's gentle, but a bit of sweetness, some subtle florals. I'm not getting much else yet. Maybe the tongue will have something else to offer.
Hopefully, yeah.
There we go. It's sweet.
There's more,
jam, crackers, white bread.
It's quite malty. It's more malty than fruity on that one. Which the Jameson wasn't massively fruity. That has more had more esoteric flavours. This tastes very conventional. This one might have thrown me for if say this had come out of the calendar in a blind tasting, because this one is much less distinctly Irish in terms of its flavours. This one you could kind of sneak in next to a lineup of other budget blended Scotch whiskies, and I have a lot more trouble telling the difference.
Getting oddly specific characters of this, but it's making me think of mostly strawberry jam on buttered white bread.
Yeah, the white bread, that's a good one. There's that particular sort of quality, that slightly sweet but not quite, but a huge mildness. Yeah, this is very drinkable.
Yeah, it's getting sweeter and more, I guess,
it's
the
just
berry
not
influence as we
very engaging, is what I'd say.
I suppose via the different cask types and different spirits which are in here, or different grains rather, are kind of more muddled together into one contiguous fog of flavour rather than having distinct demarcated zones.
I don't dislike it. It just has so little to say compared to the Jamesons.
Yeah.
I'll go nuclear on this one.
No, it is plenty enjoyable. It lacks standout or really clear cut razor edge.
The ice might be all that saves this one.
Again, it's clearly not meant to be a connoisseur's intellectual or sit down snobbly stroking beard deconstructing kind of a whiskey. There are whiskies for that. This is for drinking and enjoying readily and abundantly by lay people and experts.
Let's see. No, can't save it.
A splash of water that's smelling a bit more leathery and slightly dank. Interesting.
It quickens it up with the water and certainly makes it fresher, cooling it down. But it doesn't really fix it.
It's bringing out the honey, but that's all it's really changing on the flavour. Funny, it's less sweet on the nose, but it is possibly more uniformly sweet on the tongue.
And now I think I've killed it. I don't know if it wanted that water at all in terms of the intensity dropping off. Yeah, that's whereas the Jamesons was a bit of a surprise. This really isn't much of a surprise. This is what you would expect to be coming out of where it came out of, which is budget, no age statement, blended whiskey. Which isn't to say I hate it.
No,
there's just not a hell of a lot there to engage with. It doesn't have much of a presence to it, which puts it at a 62 for me. It's perfectly. If I wanted to drink whiskey, this would solve my problem. But it wouldn't be what I'd reach for if I had other options. If I wanted to engage with what I was drinking, this wouldn't. It would be a pretty one-sided conversation I'd have with this one. I don't know. What do you? How does it treat you?
Marginally higher. This one's a 69 from me. It is nice and drinkable. It is not bereft of flavour or character. It just doesn't do anything outstandingly. It is limited by being just very safe and middle of the road. I'm sure that's what they're going for, and it is perfectly fit for its purpose and what it's marketed for. So it is just fine for what it is and what it sets out to do.
I think our mission, our homework on this one will be to find one way or the other, more current bottling. And
something differently out of
something definitely out of Tullamore, and see A, if it's different, and B, if it's better, if it's more interesting.
Are they trying to stay true to the previous flavour, or are they trying to forge a new identity based on their new premises?
That I think will be a worthwhile exercise, and now that we've got this one documented, even if we can't remember, we can just go and scrape through the video and find out what we thought about it.
Rare occasion of us watching our own videos back, something I generally don't do.
Aspect of it, but no, that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting even if this one wasn't particularly, but so we'll call that one out of two Irishes. That's one hit and maybe one miss from this one. But in an unprecedented move, it's time for the triple Irish. We're going to triple distill because I've got one more in the hopper, which hopefully it hopes is going to top the other two easily. It's a proper age-stated Irish, so we're going to check that one out next. So stay with us for that one. Sludge, we will be right back.